You know that feeling when you snag a cheap laptop because the price looks good, only to find the screen flickers, the fans scream, and the battery dies before lunch? It's the kind of buyer's regret that makes anyone pause before clicking add to cart. I was in that spot a few months ago, scrolling through endless rows of budget gaming machines that promised high performance but delivered high disappointment. The real question is whether spending a little more on a reputable brand can actually save you from that headache. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I started looking at 16-inch laptops for both work and a bit of gaming, the ThinkPad name kept popping up. Lenovo's business pedigree gives you a certain expectation of durability and a keyboard you can actually type on for hours, while the newer Ultra 7 processor promised enough cores to keep modern games and demanding office suites happy. The fear, though, was that the price point might still be flirting with budgetish territory. Could it really handle a decent gaming session without turning the lap into a sauna? And would the battery last through a typical workday, or would I be tethered to a wall outlet? Let's break this down by looking at the parts that matter once the box is open. First, the screen. The E16 ships with a 16.0-inch IPS panel that runs at 1920x1200 resolution and 60 Hz. For a business laptop, that extra vertical pixel line is a nice touch. You get more real estate for spreadsheets and code editors. The colors are fairly accurate out of the box, and the viewing angles are what you'd expect from an IPS. When you fire up a game like Shadow of the Tomb Raider at medium settings, the extra vertical space isn't a game changer, but it does make menus feel less cramped than a typical 1080p 16:9 panel. The downside? At 60 Hz you'll notice a bit of motion blur in fast-paced shooters. If you're chasing 144 Hz smoothness, this isn't the screen for you. Performance-wise, the Intel Core Ultra 7 155U is a 12-core beast that can turbo up to 4.8 GHz. In my real-world tests running Photoshop, multiple browser tabs, and a background build of a Unity project, the laptop never hit a bottleneck. For gaming, I paired it with Intel's integrated graphics, which are decent for titles like Valorant or Rocket League at 1080p low to medium settings. You won't be maxing out Cyberpunk 2077, but you'll get a smooth experience in esports titles that rely more on frame rate than raw graphics fidelity. The 32 GB of DDR5 RAM is a luxury in this price range, and it eliminates any stutter when you swap between demanding apps. The 1 TB PCIe NVMe SSD boots Windows in seconds and loads large game files without the dreaded spinning wheel moments you see on slower SATA drives. Heat and fan noise are where many laptops in this class stumble, and the E16 is no exception. Under a light workload, emails, spreadsheets, a web browser, the fan is barely audible, a gentle whir that blends into the background. Push the machine into a gaming session or a long video render, and the fan ramps up to a noticeable hum. It's not an ear-splitting whine, but if you're in a quiet office or a shared space, you'll hear it. The chassis does a decent job of venting the heat. After an hour of sustained gaming, the bottom feels warm but not scorching, and the keyboard stays comfortable. Speaking of the keyboard, ThinkPads are famous for their typing feel, and the E16 maintains that reputation. The keys have the classic 1.5mm travel and a tactile bump that makes long typing sessions feel intentional rather than mushy. The layout includes the full set of function keys and a dedicated number pad, which is a pleasant surprise on a laptop that's also marketed for gaming. The trackpad is responsive, but most gamers will plug in a mouse, something the laptop makes easy with its USB-C power in port, Thunderbolt 4, HDMI 2.1, and the included DockStorm USB hub. The hub adds a few extra USB-A ports and an Ethernet jack, which is a nice touch if you're connecting to a wired network for lower latency. Battery life is a mixed bag. The 3-cell 57Wh battery gives you roughly 5 to 6 hours of mixed usage: email, a bit of web browsing, and a spreadsheet. If you throw in a gaming session, that drops to about 3 hours before you'll feel the need to plug in. That's typical for a laptop with a 12-core CPU and a 16-inch screen, but it's something to keep in mind if you expect a full day of gaming on the go. The 65W power adapter is compact, but you'll still be tethered when the battery dips low during long play. Portability is another practical concern. At around 5.4 pounds, the E16 isn't a featherweight ultrabook, but it's manageable enough to slip into a backpack for a commute. The 16-inch size means you get a decent amount of screen real estate without sacrificing too much on the road. The hinge opens to a